when Chen Shui-bian was threatening to hold an independence referendum in Taiwan, which we were talking to the China, Powell, Richard Haas, we did policy planning talks in Beijing with Wang Yi. Wang Yi was the guy was our interlocutor, now the plenipotentiary foreign minister who's between the Politburo and the foreign ministry, actually a very powerful position. When we were holding those talks, we were telling the Chinese, don't listen to CSB. Don't listen to him at all, because he is not going to be allowed to do that. We will prevent him from doing that. Donald Rumsfeld and Dick Cheney sent an emissary to Taipei almost weekly to tell CSB to keep doing it. They wanted to cross that red line, which they knew was a red line China would honor. In fact, they would do something if he declared an independence referendum. And clearly the polls were showing by a slight margin, they probably would have voted for independence. And that was a complete abrogation of what Kissinger and Mao Zedong and Zhou Enlai had put together in the beginning and the agreement we had with China. So we would take Doug Powell, our representative in Taipei, ambassador really, but we had to call him a representative, and our ambassador for mostly commercial reasons in Arlington. We had to take them aside almost weekly and tell them this is not the right message. And Powell was taking a real chance here because he was going against the vice president and the secretary of defense. Condi knew about it, but she wouldn't tell the president. When she did finally tell the president publicly, I think it was 2004, publicly rebuked Chen Shui-bian, put him back in his house, if you will. The rep in Taipei, who was Larry Rita, the chief of staff for Donald Rumsfeld, was Larry Rita's wife at that time. She came out, damn earpiece. She came out and essentially said the president didn't mean what he said, because she was in this, group too. We fired her. We let it out that she was having, problems, medical problems or something like that, but we fired her right off the bat. But we had to fight tooth and nail against the vice president and the Secretary of Defense from developing a new Cold War with China. That's what they wanted. They wanted a new Cold War with China. They both saw that Cold Wars were very, very advantageous for the United States of America, the defense complex and everything else from whence Cheney came. And therefore, we needed a new Cold War. They didn't want a hot war. I don't think they wanted a hot war, but they wanted a Cold War with China. And Powell spent his entire 4 years, the principal purpose was keeping us out of war with China, because the vice president and the secretary of defense did want a Cold War. Now, what did that mean for Bush? Finally, Bush came out and did what he did, because I'm convinced, I've never talked to the president about this, and he didn't put it in his book, but I'm convinced he knew the importance to the United States and to our economic structure at that time of China. And I put it this way, he knew the importance of China to Walmart. And so he sided with Powell. Americans don't know this. No one's written about it. He was with Powell every time Powell came down hard with regard to China. And that's the only reason Powell was ultimately successful, because the Secretary of State operating without the imprimatur of the president eventually is going to get shot down, as he did on Israel, for example. But that was how crazy that administration was. They're trying to do all these things at the same time they're baiting China. It's insanity. I don't know any better word for it. Insanity. The hubris of power produced an incredible amount of insanity.